got your OCI card, right? But do you know the new rules that pertains to those who are holding the OCI card or the overseas citizens of India? Well, there are quite a few new rules, and I think it's high time we'll look into it so that we will not be left in the bandwagon. Well, hello guys once again, and welcome to another episode of Filipindian Tales, where I share with you insights of the life of a Filipino Indian or a Filipindian like myself. In today's episode, we will be looking at the new OCI rules that were passed and recently to overseas citizens of India, both here in India and abroad. Well, for those who are wondering what OCI is, or what the abbreviation OCI stands for, it is Overseas Citizens of India. And with that comes the OCI card, this blue card right here. So the people who are accorded the title OCI, or the Overseas Citizens of India, are given this blue card. This is the OCI card, which is practically like our resident permit, much like, the green card in the United States of America, except that it is blue, so we might as well call it the blue card here in India. So this card grants its holder a multiple entry to India, or something like a lifelong visa, for as long as we still qualify to the requirements given by the law. The OCI card provides a foreign citizen or anyone of Indian origin, provided of course they hold an OCI card, to live and work for an indefinite period of time here in India. Well, the OCI card was launched in 2005 under the Citizen Amendment Act. It was earlier called the Person of Indian Origin, or the PIO, which had almost the same stipulation as the OCI, barring the new additions or the new rules that was recently passed. While the OCI card allows its holder to live and work indefinitely for an indefinite period of time here in India, it has its own limitations, which can be categorized in three different things. First is that an OCI holder does not have the right to vote in India. Second, they do not have the right to hold constitutional offices, which is just logical, right? If you cannot vote, then you also don't have the right to hold any offices or run for any government positions or anything like that. And lastly, an OCI card holder cannot own agricultural land. We will get into the details later of what an OCI card holder can own and not own here in India. But according to the most recent statistics, there are 3,593,963 OCI card holders. That's quite a lot. And this means, not only those who are in India, there are also those who are abroad, living abroad, but are holding the OCI status or the OCI card, the blue card, right? So who is eligible to become an OCI or be accorded the Overseas Citizens of India status, or be given this blue card and enjoy all the benefits that this tiny little card here gives all of us? Let's get into it. So here it says the following categories, except for people from Pakistan and Bangladesh, are eligible to apply for an OCI. Number 1, a citizen of another country but was a citizen of India at the time or at any time after the commencement of the Constitution. Or a citizen of another country but was eligible to become a citizen of India at the time of the commencement of the Constitution. Or a citizen of another country but belonged to a territory that became part of India after the 15th day of August 1947. Or a child or a grandchild or the great-grandchild of such a citizen, or a minor whose both parents are citizens of India or one of its parents is a citizen of India. So I think this is where our child may fall into. Our child having a father who's a citizen of India is eligible to get an OCI card or an OCI status here in India. And of course, a spouse of foreign origin of a citizen of India or spouse of foreign origin of an overseas citizen of India cardholder registered under Section 7A Citizen Act of 1995 and whose marriage has been registered and subsisted for a continuous period of no less than 2 years, immediately preceding the presentation of the application. So, needless to say that you can only apply for an OCI if you have already been married for 2 years or more. So prior to the introduction of OCI in 2005, it was originally called the PIO, or the Person of Indian Origin. And just like any other schemes or structure, the change brought about new rules, updated information, and additional restrictions. Recently, there has been a series of amendments to the OCI rules by the Home Ministry. Last month, on March 4, 2021, the central government released the new rules, the updated rules pertaining to the OCI cardholders. These rules specify the rights of overseas citizens of India and the things that we are entitled of. So let's go and look at it one by one. Number 1. As I mentioned earlier, the OCI card or the OCI status allows us a multiple entry to India, or something like, lifelong visa, you may call it that. But in this particular ruling, they have added that, for some purposes of the visit, if they're undergoing, these categories that they have mentioned, I'm going to mention it right now, you may need a special permission from the Home Ministry or from the central government. Number 1 is to undertake research. So if you're coming to India and doing some research for whatever subject or purpose it is, you may have to ask for permission from the Home Ministry or the central government, and based on your submission or your proposal of your research, they may grant you or not grant you permission to actually conduct your research in India. Well, the second one is to undertake any missionary or TABLIQH or mountaineering or journalistic activities. Well, these are 4 things. One is, missionary, so maybe, people of different religion or different sect, coming into India. There may be some restrictions as to what you can do in India or such things, okay? TABLIQH, this is something new to me, so I had to actually research what TABLIQH is. And this is what I found here. It says that TABLIQH Jamaat is a Sunni Islamic missionary movement that urges Muslims to return to a pure form of Sunni Islam and be religiously observant, especially with respect to dressing, personal behavior, and rituals. So apparently, if you are conducting any TABLIQH activities, then you may have to, again, ask for permission from the Home Ministry or the central government. And mountaineering activities, maybe this has something to do, with preserving the natural resources. I am sure every country has its rules, when it comes to preservation of their natural resources. No one wants their natural resources to be actually exploited. So if anyone or any OCI wants to conduct or do some mountaineering activities in some of the areas or reserves of the Indian government, or owned or run by the Indian government or protected by the Indian government, so they do need to actually ask for permission for that as well. And the last one is journalistic activities. In fact, one of my friends, when she heard about this new rule, kind of messaged me and actually cautioned me and asked me if I'd still be able to continue my work here as a journalist. But fortunately or unfortunately, in the recent years actually, I've already moved out of the actual journalism and got into another field. So this doesn't really apply to me now. But for anyone, any journalist, any OCI journalist who would want to come to India for any journalistic activity, again, they'll have to ask for the permission of the Home Ministry or the central government. The third is to undertake internship in any foreign diplomatic missions in India or foreign government organizations in India, or to take up employment in any foreign diplomatic missions in India. So these are all those, foreign embassies, consulates, and all those things, and other foreign organizations in India. So again, this may need some permissions by the government. And the last one in this list is to visit any place which falls within the protected or restricted or prohibited areas as notified by the central government or competent authority. So again, these may be pertaining to some of the places that are actually being preserved by the Indian government. There are some really, really nice places to visit in India. I can see the Ajanta and Ellora caves in Aurangabad. They're actually UNESCO heritage sites. So these are things that are very well preserved by the Indian government. And of course, the forests and the mountains and the beautiful hill stations of India and many other temples, old temples and old edifices in India are very much revered by the government. And so visiting these places will have to be ask permission from the government, because these are things that are very well protected by the Indian government. So I think it's just fair, because any government for that matter, as I mentioned earlier, if they want to, safeguard their properties or safeguard the things that are very, very important to them, they have to, put in some restrictions for anyone who is visiting. So the second main point in the list of our rights as OCI or overseas citizens of India while actually staying here in India is that we are exempted from registering to the FRRO or the Foreigners Regional Registration Office for as long as we are in India. But again, there is some limitations or restrictions here, and it says that provided that the OCI card holders who are normally resident of India shall intimate the jurisdictional Foreigners Regional Registration Officer, or the FRRO, or the Foreigners Registration Officer by mail whenever there is a change in permanent residential address or in their occupation. So whenever we move, maybe move cities or move to different states, then of course we may have to inform them, not necessarily to visit, because here it says by email. We can just inform them, because I think they maintain some kind of list of who are the foreigners who are belonging to that particular FRRO office or the Foreigners Regional Registration Office. They just want to keep tab. So if you move to another state, your residents move to another state or another city, then you have to actually intimate them by email, not necessarily by going there. So that's really not much of a hassle. Well, just another update here is the 2050 rule of the OCI. Well, this just says that we have to renew our OCI if the holder turns 20 years old, and then once again when the holder, the OCI card holder, turns 50 years old. So what this means is that because when the child or a minor actually gets an OCI card, obviously their face or the photo in the OCI card is when they were still young. And of course, as they grow old, the physical features, the facial features change, and that is why as they turn 20, they'll have to actually renew and change their OCI card, again going into the biometrics and putting their new photograph so that their OCI card reflects the new photograph that actually looks like them, not when they were like 5 years old when they got their OCI card, right? And the same way, when the person turns 50, which means after so many years, that's about 30 years, I'm sure you can agree with me that there'll also be a lot of physical changes, facial features, maybe the color of the hair, or the many other things that can change on a person's appearance. So I think that is why they also require that a person again changes or renew their OCI card when they turn 50 years old. Well, I think this is not much from the government side, asking us to renew our OCI card twice in a lifetime, because after all they're giving us the opportunity to actually live and work in India for an indefinite period of time, for a lifetime for that matter. But you know what? Not many people take this seriously, and I know many who are not even bothered to look into this very, very carefully. But I must tell you that based on my experience, I was once asked, while checking to our flight to India, the Manchester airport, I was asked if I had already changed or renewed my OCI card, because at that time I had just turned 50. And they were asking me, you have to renew your OCI card because you have just turned 50. Because, they see it on your birthday, on your passport, right? And so they have the right to ask because it's there in the rule, and, we have to follow the rule. So as soon as I came back to India, I went to the FRRO, registered for my renewal of OCI card, and I got my new OCI card. So there's no harm in following the rule, right? As I've said, they're giving us the opportunity to live in India, work in India, and enjoy all that this beautiful country can offer. So why not follow the rules? So well, the third one is quite exciting because this talks about parity with Indian nationals with respect to the following things. Number one is tariff in airfares in all the domestic sectors in India. We need not worry that, being a foreigner, we will be charged higher than, what a normal or what an Indian national is to be charged. So, this says that, very, very clearly that we will be paying the same airfare in all the domestic flights within India, and that's quite a lot. India is so big, so we can actually go to all the places and actually enjoy the many beautiful sights and beautiful cities here in India. Second is entry fees to be charged for visiting national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, the national monuments, historical sites, and museums in India. Well, see, we are foreigners here in India, and we actually look like foreigners. We don't look like Indians, okay? And so, whenever we enter these kind of parks, museums, and other things, we will often be asked to pay the foreigner's fee, which of course are quite higher than what the Indians will pay. I remember in one of the parks that we went to, an Indian will have to pay like 30 rupees, while a foreigners will have to pay $15. And a personal example that I can share with you is while visiting Taj Mahal in Agra. I was there, I was with my husband and my daughter, and of course my daughter and I look different from all the other Indians, and of course we were asked to pay the foreigner's fee or the dollar fee that they charge all foreigners. Fortunately, what we always do whenever we travel within India is that we always carry our passport as well as our OCI card. And showing the OCI card, we were allowed entry paying the local fee or what the Indians would actually pay. The third one, the earlier one that we mentioned, spoke about parity with Indian nationals while, living here in India. Well, here, the fourth one that we are going to be discussing right now is parity with non-resident Indians, the NRI as they call it here. Number one is in the inter-country adoption of Indian children subject to the compliance of the procedure as laid down by the competent authority of such adoption. So that means, just like the NRIs can actually adopt children here in India, OCI can also now adopt children. Of course, if they're eligible or if they can comply with all the rules that are specified by the law. The second is, this is very important for those who have children and or are planning to have children here in India. So this says that, we have the same, rights as NRIs in appearing for all India entrance tests such as National Eligibility Entrance Test, Joint Entrance Examinations, Joint Entrance Examinations in the advanced sector, or such other tests to make them eligible for admission only against any non-resident Indian seat or any supernumerary exceeding as usual stated or prescribed number seat, provided that the OCI card holder shall not be eligible for admission against any seat reserved exclusively for Indian citizens. Okay, so this is some something big, okay, that many of us, I didn't understand this earlier also, because our system in the Philippines and in many other countries are actually different when it comes to college admissions or any university admission. But see, here in India, there are quota system, and there are also seats that are reserved for different communities. And there are seats reserved for NRIs, and there are seats reserved for Indian citizens. So what they're saying here is that we are, or we have the right to compete or appear for all India examinations or the entrance test, provided that we are looking at seats that are reserved for that kind of community. That's the NRI community. So basically, the NRI and the OCI, will have to look into the same seats that are available in any university or any college that they choose to apply for. Okay, so of course we cannot compete for seats that are reserved for Indian citizens, because those are for Indian citizens, right? So next, again, this is very exciting. It says that we have the same right, or we are on parity with the NRIs in the purchase or sale of immovable properties other than agricultural land or farmhouse or plantation property. So again, this is what we mentioned earlier, that except for agricultural land, we are eligible to purchase or sell an immovable property. Okay, maybe this talks about the houses in the city or any town or flat or any of those things. So we have the right and we are eligible for that, the same way that the NRI or the non-resident Indians have the right. So the next one, number 4, is that pursuing the following professions in India as per the provisions contained in the applicable relevant statutes or acts as the case may be, namely doctors, dentists, nurses, and pharmacists, advocates, architects, and chartered accountants. So this just goes to say that we can practice these professions, of course, provided that we know how it is in India, how the rule or how the law according to the professions that we are practicing. Next and the last one in this list is that it says, in respect of all other economic, financial, and educational fields not specified in this notification, or the rights and privileges not covered by the notifications made by the Reserve Bank of India under the Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999, the OCI cardholder shall have the same rights and privileges as a foreigner. So I think this last one talk about money matters, and this is something that is still a little hazy to me. But one thing that I am quite sure of is that it is not easy to take out money from India. There are a lot of restrictions, there are a lot of rules that we must follow, and it's not as easy as if you're in the Middle East or in some other country. Sending money outside India is not that easy to do. Okay, even actually, like based on our experience, even sending money abroad for our daughter who's studying there is not that easy. We have to pay all the taxes, we have to go through the Reserve Bank of India regulations, and the bank will have to intimate us of all the rules that applies whenever we send out money. So this is something that we have to really look into, and of course this is again because India tries to contain their resources within the country, and try to serve its citizens or its people better, right? Another recent addendum that surfaced very recently is about the case of a woman, an OCI card holder, a resident of Brussels in Belgium, but she was holding an OCI card by virtue of being married to an Indian national. So she got an OCI card, and her child or children also got an OCI card, but she divorced her husband a couple of years ago. And the OCI rule says that foreigners registered as overseas citizens of India or OCI because of their marriage to Indian national cannot continue to enjoy the status of an OCI after their divorce. Well, the said woman actually challenged the provision, Citizen Act Section 7DF, but the Ministry of Home Affairs, or the MHA, in an affidavit has said that the section under challenge makes a clear classification based on the intelligible differential as it applies to foreigners who were registered as OCI cardholders on the strength of their spouse being a citizen of India or an OCI cardholder. So once the marriage has been dissolved, there is no more reason for anyone to enjoy the benefits brought about by that marriage. In fact, the ministry even added that the provision has the object of cancellation of registration as an OCI cardholder of such foreigners as they are no more eligible under the Citizenship Act of 1955. Another thing that actually came up with this news is that the same woman contesting that they have relatives in India and they would like to visit. The Ministry of Home Affairs in this respect said that, you know, the children can still actually visit, or her children can still actually visit, because they do their OCI card status or OCI status doesn't get revoked because their father is still an Indian national or still an OCI card holder, so they still have the right to hold the OCI status. And you know, this was all over the news a couple of weeks ago, and this was something that, you know, the OCI, or something that the government, the Ministry of Home Affairs, actually want to reiterate now, that once the marriage is dissolved, or the couple is divorced, the spouse who is holding an OCI status, who's actually a foreign national, can no longer enjoy the status of being an overseas citizen of India. And then finally, something that will actually and literally make our traveling experience a lot lighter is the recent, very recent rule that was given out by the Ministry of Home Affairs about the OCI ruling, is that, you know, OCI need not carry their old passports with them whenever they're traveling. As you can see here, you know, I have like four passports here with me that I was traveling with, you know, with my OCI card also, and I used to carry all this because the passport number that was stamped on my OCI was my very first passport. So the first passport, the second passport, third passport, and all passport that I had, you know, from 2005, when the OCI was actually introduced. I had all those passports, and I was carrying that all the time, every time I travel, because you never know, in case they ask, you know, which passport was actually, you know, indicated in the OCI. So I was carrying all those passports, and now we can let go of all those passports and carry only our recent, most valid passport. That's more than enough, you know, to show in the OCI. I think this also is because of recent automation of all things here in India. So everything is now, like, you know, in computer, and they can easily track all your old passwords that you've used earlier and how it is connected to your OCI card that you're actually holding right now. So that's quite literally, you know, making our travel a lot lighter, right? So yeah, I think that's it for now, folks. You know, the rules, you know, the regulations, and, you know, things get updated and they change quite often. Well, this is true for everything, not only about our OCI. And in fact, that's what we say, you know, change is the only thing constant in this world. So we just have to keep, you know, updating ourselves and keep our eyes and ears open for all the recent developments. And hopefully, you know, if there are more updates or more addendums to the OCI rules, I'll also be updating you. So just, you know, just keep a tab on the Filipindian Tales, and I will be updating you whenever there is an update on the OCI rules or anything that pertains to us as, you know, foreigners here in the country, or as a Filipino Indian living here in India. So once again, I thank you for joining me in this episode of Filipindian Tales. I hope you learned a thing or two, or you found something that may be useful to you or someone who's known to you. And if you haven't done so already, I'd be grateful if you can subscribe to my channel, click that notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I have a new update or new news for you from our Filipindian Tales channel. And if you know someone or anyone, and if your relatives or friends who can benefit from this information that I have just shared with you, I would request you to please share this video to them or share it in your social media accounts, your Facebook, Instagram, or any other things. And let's hope many other people can actually benefit from this information and be aware of what we are eligible or not eligible, or what we are allowed to do and not allowed to do here in India. And in the meantime, I hope to see you again in the succeeding episode of Filipindian Tales. And for now, please do remember that life is a journey and not a race. So let's have fun along the way. Bye for now, and keep safe, everyone.